Welcome back to yet another exciting episode of Branding Banter, your promo podcast, where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, part of PPAI's 100.
Oh, I'm Meg Erber, Director of Sales at Proforma, also a member of PPAI's Top 100.
But the other list, the other 100.
But the other list, the better one.
I'm Stephen McFadden with TSC, and I'll be talking about PPAI 100.
I'm Sarah Goshgarian Unruh, National Sales Manager at Stalls, and I'm bummed I don't have a, comma PPAI added to my name there, Jeff.
Hey, at least you have industry certification.
That's true. There's three of us that have that. I don't know what's going on with that other one.
Oh my God.
Actually, aren't you on that committee? Like, how did they let you on?
They let me on because I didn't have certification, so I could bring that lens. But since I've been to like 2 meetings because I'm now in like mandatory training for my to develop out training for my franchise owners. So that is every Friday morning.
I guess you gave them all the lens that they needed. Clearly, it just doesn't matter to Meg Erber. All right, fair enough. How is everybody other than Meg? Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm so good. We have graduation today. So this will air next week. So then I'll have a new high school graduate. So it's very
and a new background.
Yeah.
It'll be in a different location.
Exactly. Yeah. All over the place right now.
I feel like that map in the background is very fitting. Sarah's just always somewhere else. Every time it's a different background.
I'm still at home. It's in the same room. It's just that we have so many people inside of our house right now that the pull-out bed is being used. So different angle.
Well, I like the map anyways. Stephen, how are you? Stephen?
How are you? Hey. Oh, I didn't hear the name of myself. I'm good. Yeah, doing great. I'm ready to go to the beach, so I'm like checked out.
I know.
You're on the beach for Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good for you. You want like North Kakalaki beaches?
We're going near Charleston actually, so it'll be super fun.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Awesome. Well, you know what else is super fun?
What's that?
My quarter zip?
Roller coasters.
Well, yeah, roller coasters is fun too, cooking out, all that good stuff. It's all fun. But so is Alpha Broder. Alpha Broder is America's leading supplier of wholesale apparel, promotional products, and imprintable goods. Alpha Broder's products build brands, champion causes, acknowledge achievements, and offer limitless solutions. They carry more than 6,500 styles from over 60 brands of classic and trending products like wholesale t-shirts, fleece, drinkware, bags, journals, and more. Alpha Broder is empowering their customers to brand the world through market-leading service, products, and solutions. So be sure to check them out at alphabroder.com. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the podcast. And why don't we launch into today's episode? Stephen, you'd already sort of said we're going to talk about PPAI 100. So would you like to go first, since you let the cat out of the bag early?
I mean, I guess that is my fault.
Did he or did you?
No, I just said that I am part of PPAI 100. No. That's not saying we're talking.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe my talking about it was just going to be to congratulate you.
Oh, well, thank you, Stephen. Meg doesn't get congratulated, though.
So Industry 100 came out.
It did.
You guys want to talk about it?
Separately, too, which was, does anybody else think it's a little bit weird that they launched like the supplier list and then the distributor list?
Nah, build up suspense. I think it's cool.
They should do one a day.
What's that?
For each. We should do one a day for each. So you get 200 days of content, and you got to keep checking in.
Yeah. Checking in to see if I'm on the list yet. Yeah.
That's the problem with Major League Baseball. There's too many games, too much to tune into. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
We need the NFL's schedule. Like, just hit me with it. Be done with it. We're out the door.
And then done.
Well, I know we're going to talk about what was different, and I definitely want to dive into that. I wanted to talk about one thing I noticed now and then something else later. So one thing that I noticed that I thought really said a lot. It really said a lot. I saw it on LinkedIn, and it was a post by Alpha Broder, actually, and it was a picture of 2 of the leaders in this industry. It was Marty Lott and Dan Pantano, and they were sitting next to each other. And Dan had his arm around Marty. And I thought, wow, and they were the number 1 and number 2 suppliers this year. And, now that I'm not on that side of it anymore, I can kind of speak freely, but I thought, wow, that really says a lot for this industry that you have the number one, the number two, sitting next to each other and they're friends. And they're kind of more of like a collaborative effort. That's what it comes out across from being on the distributor side. So I just want to say I noticed that. I thought it was really cool that they did that and put it out on social, because I think it kind of goes to show that it's good, and that's really coming from something that we're seeing in the news. Another big apparel conglomerate and like Ford up and leaving, all this stuff, all this craziness. When we dial it back in, we have two very strong leaders kind of coming together as one, and I really like that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We can move on.
I think it's good. I think it shows collaboration, right? Like, I think a lot of people don't realize of like how much collaboration actually happens behind the scenes with a lot of those executive leaders. Even though they're with different companies, there is a lot of collaboration that happens, and a lot of them are mentors to each other. And so it is really cool to see. I agree. It was an awesome picture.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I thought that they changed and what made a huge impact, I believe, is first, Meg, what is the PPAI acronym? What does that stand for?
Promotional Products Association International.
I'm sorry. So what now? What was the I?
International.
International. All right. Very cool. So yeah, PPAI is actually it's international, and so one of the things that they changed from 2023's PPAI 100 to PPAI 100 2024 was the fact that they allowed international numbers to come into play. So for companies that have more of a global presence, like Headwear USA, with 13 offices worldwide, just right in there. It helps out a little bit, but so look, there was the really nice thing about what PPAI has done over this past year has they've actually listened. They've taken the feedback that people have given them in regards to the metrics that they're scoring things on and different things that should be considered, and they're actually listening and tweaking things. So whether you're happy about the results of this year's 100 or not, just understand that they are listening and doing the best that they can. And I think they've made some great changes to how they're scoring things. And, obviously I think they'll continue to tweak things to make it for the better. But international business, obviously PPAI is international. And I think that is a huge key point to include there.
So 8 categories they looked at, right? And so that's how then they came up with the list. So previous year revenue, growth, industry faith, professional development, responsibility, innovation, employee happiness, and online presence. So Meg, can you help? Because I know you got interviewed. What does industry faith mean?
Oh man, I've already lost it. So industry faith is basically what it's the faith that the suppliers and distributors have to make sure that they'll meet each other's obligations. So I think on the supplier side, they're pulling it out of Sage and like your score, I guess. And Sage, am I saying that right, guys? I don't have that up anymore. I apologize.
Yeah. So this is directly from media.ppai.org/blah blah blah. Promotional product leaders have agreed for generations that the industry's future is dependent on the strength of its supply chain. And for a supply chain to be strong, both suppliers and distributors must have trust in the business partner's ability to meet their obligations. So on the supplier side, PPAI 100 uses Sage ratings to determine the industry's faith in each company. And then for distributors, PPAI has actually pulled the firm's credit ratings via Experian. Obviously, for a supplier, it's important that a distributor pays their bills. And for distributors, it's important that a supplier actually does what they say they're going to do.
And I think that's huge. I think that's revenue should obviously be one of the deciding factors, but I think having that faith that your partners are going to pull their end of the bargain, I think that is huge. Knowing that, and then this is a testament to that. So that's a big part of it. I like the happiness and the business development, or all that. I think that's really, it's not just revenue. It's not just metrics. It's happiness. It's certifications. Are you guys doing what you say you're doing? Not just painting a pretty picture of it.
Yeah, I think culture, right, has been like a big word, especially around the industry, and creating that culture for the companies. And so I agree. I think looking at employee happiness is really important because that translates into then the relationship that then happens and the experience that then happens cross-board between distributor and supplier. So I agree. I think that's awesome. So
yeah,
sorry.
you mentioned that they use the same 8 metrics for scoring that they used last year. However, the actual weight that each one carries into the overall scoring has changed a little bit. I don't know if that they went into the
that was actually going to be my question, Jeff, because I'm curious. I know when we were going into it, and one of the thoughts was it's not just always the biggest companies from top down, right? And
right.
I believe I heard that was previous year complaints, and they wanted to have more factors in it. And if I'm being honest, I probably could have predicted about half of each of list if I just named the top companies, from top to bottom. And there may be some maybe my 1 is 3 and the 3 is 1, but there's still a lot of top down heavy weights based on the amount of sales that are done. So I am curious to know like how much of a factor that plays, as far as the different categories. And, if someone's really going all in on, let's say, if you just use like the metrics and the charts, there's some companies that have like 4 or 5 of the categories with high marks where they miss out on the high mark of something like a revenue, and they are halfway down the list. Whereas some who only have 2 or 3, 4 marks are top 25 in the list. So I am curious to know the scale and the weight of that,
Yeah, and I don't know if that's one of the things that they'll reveal, and it may have already been revealed. I'm not sure, guys. But
that's fair. That's fair.
In the article that I'm reading, which is a week or 2 old, it was around the time that they had announced it at NALC. But this says at the bottom of the article, we'll reveal what's different once all the results are released. Obviously, they did release the 100 distributors, so they may have already released what has changed exactly and how it's weighted. But I will say, from having been a judge in some other I don't even know what you would want to call it, but basically PPAI typically would reach out to folks, and I don't know if that's what they do here, so completely, take this with a grain of salt. But they would reach out to a set number of people, and those people would then basically rate all of these things, and then each subcategory gets weighted like, hey, this is worth 2 points, this one's worth 5 points, so on and so forth. So I'm sure it's probably similar to that, although I don't know that it would go out to a wide variety of people, just because of what.
I wonder if there's a way, and maybe this is where things are going, by introducing more of these categories to do it very similarly to how they do, like the scholarships and stuff, where the things that have a certain amount of weight, such as revenue, you're not voting on revenue. Your revenue is reported. that carries X amount of weight, but that stays off the application. You know what I mean? Like you've earned as many points as you can earn or not, or based on whatever you report, growth and revenue. And then you're rated almost like blindly without knowing the revenue and growth based on these other factors. And then you combine the two to see where you match up, which is very similar to how you do the scholarship applications that PPAI helps us with. Oh my gosh, why did I just blank on the organization? But things like merit are not known. Like that stuff's not put in there, or excuse me, the financial needs aren't known, but then you vote on everything else, and then you put the two together, and then you get your results. So I wonder if that's where it eventually will head by introducing some of these categories, because I feel like that'd be a much more accurate depiction, and it would take, give you some deniability, because in our industry, there's a lot of like, I don't want to upset, the top, spender or buyer, in each category. So, but I love the categories. I think it's great. And I love that you can click in and see the different metrics and stuff. That's a lot of time and effort put into that for sure.
For sure. You can tell. So it looks like revenue growth, right? Which they break it down into a lot of different categories. It's not just the growth or revenue or gross profit. They're actually looking at too, like the active distributor company clients that are being, used by everybody, what the order counts look like, sample cost, factory employee turnover rate, office turnover rate, on-time shipping percentage. And so there's a lot of different variables that, as opposed to just being pure revenue. And I think that is really a big driving factor into what some of these changes are. They talk about innovation. And they talk about responsibility and innovation. If you dive into it, which was interesting, and this is a good segue into technology as to where it's going, but it's a lot of like changes to ERP systems, a lot of like cloud-based systems, a lot of like online chat. So I think as we move forward into next year, we hear generative AI as like kind of like the next buzzword. And so when you talk Gen AI, I think that's going to be a part of like innovation and where we're moving from an industry perspective. So
I have to agree. And is there anything you guys noticed, like just top of mind when you're looking at the top 5 as in comparison to last year's top 5 on the supplier side? We'll start based off of what they're selling. So I'll give you a little clue. The top
all right. I'm trying to figure where we're going.
Usually apparel. I mean, the top 3 are basically all apparel people, right?
So, well, generally,
sustainability is that where you're getting?
No, I was really getting to the apparel side of it.
NFT.
Promo, right? I think you see the trend ebb and flow when it, in COVID or like during the supply chain logistics and all those issues, it would really come down to what sector of our industry was doing really well, right? You couldn't get promo for like an entire year, right, at one point. And then you couldn't get a black t-shirt anywhere for like a year. So I think that might play into a little bit when you go into some of those metrics that do a little bit deeper dive. But the top 3 were fully apparel suppliers last year. We're seeing some of the hard goods. You guys want to talk about the top 5 in each very, very quickly and list them?
Yeah, if you have it up, go ahead and list
all right, them. Yeah. So the top list, right, I had the supply. Do you have the suppliers?
Sanmar.
Okay, right here. So number 1 was Sanmar with $3.9 billion in revenue. They're on a 46% increase on a 3-year trend. Supplier number 2, Alpha Broder, $2 billion, 33 plus increase over the 3-year spend. Number 3, PCNA. Yes, they do have apparel, but they are predominantly promo. And with that being said, their revenue is at $693 million with a 34% increase. So when you're looking at those metrics, the happiness, the certification, the innovation, they must have had a heavier weight here, because if you go down to number 5, you have SNS Activewear, and they were at $2.2 billion in revenue. So you know that the revenue is not just the leading deciding factor. And then number 4, Hit Promo. They also have an apparel sector, but they're predominantly a promo as well, hard goods. So let's go to the distributors. Now, I know in the top 3, War Imprint, Halo, Proforma, they're really about technology. I mean, from my perspective, looking at the revenue as well, these are big increases, and it's really exciting to be part of that. Sorry, go ahead, Steven.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, I agree for most part. I do think if you look at the percentages of numbers for the industry, like you have to go down beyond 37 places to find anyone on the distributor that's even below $40 million. And then you'd have to go down to 55 to find someone below $25 million. So if you look at the distributor makeup too, the top like 1% is like, what is it, 10 million or something like that. So you're not even touching the top 1%. You're talking about the top 1% of the top 1%. Only revenue is reported in the first 50, 60 places. And it's hard to see that that revenue doesn't have such a strong impact on this list.
I feel like it definitely has a strong weight to it. I think it's more so growth, and it was one of the biggest changes that they made. Instead of just previous year's sales, it's actually based on a 3-year metric of growth now. So they did tweak it, and I think there is a pretty large weight on that. But Sarah, before we started the podcast, you sort of had brought up a question about, because again, the list doubled. It went from PPAI's 50 suppliers and 50 distributors to make PPAI 100. Now it's PPAI 100 suppliers and PPAI 100 distributors. So what did you
Yeah, so I had earlier, before we started, I'd asked everybody, I said, so do you guys think it's too large? So I'm super curious. So we're kind of saving the answers here for you guys. So, is it too many? And when you look at, and Jeff, we were talking about the number of suppliers across the industry, and I think it's about 3,500, right?
Yep. 3,500
were exhibited at Expo. last year in 24. So when you look at that, we're at top 100. Is it too many?
Well, I mean, when you do that math, 100 out of 3,500, it's like 2 point some odd percent. So, I mean, I really don't think that's a huge chunk. I mean, to be in the top even 5% of your industry is pretty phenomenal. But now, Stephen, sort of to your point, with the revenue and total dollar size of the company, if you will, that number is a lot smaller of a percentage for the distributors, because there's 30,000 distributor companies in the industry.
Yeah.
So taking 100 out of that, I mean, you like you said, you're talking about a percentage of the top percent. I mean, it's a very thin number. So one could even argue that number could be larger. But then again,
I was wondering if you go, it's kind of split it, right? Like, I don't mind if the award is like a top 1%. Like, I think that makes sense. But having it where it is for suppliers that are being added all the time, and so I think it'll probably end up being a 1%er once that number, hits it. I think it's fine. I like it. I like that there's a lot of stuff you could have more in the distributor side, but again, I don't mind it either. It's very exclusive, which is kind of cool.
To Sarah's point, though, I mean, if you expand it too much further, then you may be probably watering it down, and I don't think anybody wants that. And I think the metrics and the things that they're what.
I was going to say, how would you feel if this year's they went to 99 suppliers?
Yeah.
Well, I mean that would be fine, because the actual. The revenue for our international business isn't even actually.
I'm messing with you, Jeff.
Yeah, we're giving you a hard time.
We're actually getting into some of the endpoints and all that for the thing in the industry.
For sure.
Promo standards. There we go. So we're getting into all that, and a lot more tech and responsibility and all that stuff that's going into the package as well. So you just wait until next year, Stephen.
That's awesome, man. Hey, congrats to both of you, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And with all that being said, you guys, we didn't touch on it, and we do have to wrap. But how do they get these metrics? Do you guys know? Through the survey. They send out a survey, and a lot of people don't take the time to really answer it properly. So when that survey goes out next year, it's open to all suppliers, all distributors. Fill it out. I think it comes out between February and March. It'll come out again next year. Fill out the damn survey. They can get answers, and otherwise, if you don't fill out a certain question, then you get docked 0 points for that answer. So keep that in mind. But with that being said,
you get 10 points for putting your name on it.
I think so.
SATs.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't lie on the survey either, because I'm sure it's verified information. So,
is that what industry faith is?
Anyhow, this episode is brought to you by PPAI's 100 Alpha Broder. All right. And they're America's leading supplier in wholesale apparel, promotional products, and imprintable goods. Alpha Broder products build brands, champion causes, and acknowledge achievements, and offer limitless solutions. They carry more than 6,500 styles from over 60 brands of classic and trending products like wholesale t-shirts, fleece, drinkware, bags, journals, and more. Alpha Broder is empowering their customers to brand the world through market-leading service, products, and solutions. So be sure to check them out at alphabroder.com. And until next time, we'll be seeing you guys. Take it easy.